Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Urban-Flores. I'm the online teaching and learning librarian. I have a wide variety of subjects and I wear a wide variety of hats at any given point in time. As you can see, these are all of my subjects that I'm in charge of, that I help with, and I do a lot of different things for. So if any of you are in education, I'm the education librarian. So for the entire College of Ed, whether it's one of the 3 departments, that is my department, that is my college. I also work with Chicano Studies, Humanities, History, Jewish Studies, Museum Studies, Kinesiology, Native American and Indigenous Studies. And so again, I wear a lot of different hats at any given moment, but if you need any help at all, I am your go-to person here at any one of those, okay? So that goes for you guys here in person, and that also goes for you guys online as well. And then just a real quick fun fact about me, I used to have a goldfish named Golden. That just, I don't know, just kind of captured his essence. He was golden, so hence the name Golden. The library is really here to be a bit of a resource for you guys. And so I'm hopefully going to show some tips and some suggestions that can make kind of your working through graduate school and your graduate program a little bit easier. Okay, so Jesse, if you can hit next for me, please. Today what we are going to be talking about, we are going to be talking about how to break down your research question and your research topics into more bite-sized pieces. Hence the title, Information Chowdown, because we're going to be chowing down on some questions and kind of thinking about how we can chunk it up a little bit better. We are going to be looking at Boolean operators and how they function and how they can help you in your research and in your work. And for this session, we are only going to be focusing on MinerQuest. Our session for next week, which is next Tuesday, I want to say the 10th, we're going to be looking at more subject-specific databases. So if you have a question of like, okay, well, great, I know MinerQuest, but what can I do for my own discipline? We will be getting to that one, and we're going to get to that one next week. For now, we're just going to cover MinerQuest. And then hopefully we are going to set up your RefWorks account. If you have never set up a RefWorks account, this is going to be an opportune time for you, whether you're in person or if you're online and you don't have a RefWorks account, again, it's going to be a great time for you to do that and kind of get you set up and get you going to where you need to be. Okay, if at any point, because I do talk a little fast and I do run through things very quickly, if you have any questions, if you want to go ahead and raise your hand, you can also raise your hand in the Zoom session or just drop them in the chat and we'll get to your questions as we see fit, okay, as we kind of go through it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have you guys click on research question breakdown. It's going to be this highlighted kind of blue link. So if you want to go ahead and click on that. And then Jesse, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that too, please. Thank you. So this is something that I suggest all my students to make a copy of and save. And as you can see on the top left-hand corner, you have the little download option. I suggest that you guys download this and save a blank copy. This will be really useful and really beneficial to you as you're kind of working through your classes, whether this is your first semester here or whether you're already kind of getting to your dissertating phase and getting to your thesis level, right? This is something that I believe is a very helpful tool and one that I know can be very useful for you. This is going to be kind of our guide for today's session. Like I mentioned, we are going to be chunking up our research questions. We are going to be thinking about our research a little bit more, and we are going to be breaking it up into more key concepts of how you can use them efficiently in your database searching. Okay. Also for the link, I think you can maybe try grabbing it from the URL right up there, and let's see if that works.
We'll certainly give it a shot.
And if it doesn't, I can definitely let us know if it works. Yeah. And if not, I can definitely send it out at the end of the session to everyone so you can also have a copy that way. Okay, so again, just make sure you download that and try to save it, create a copy for yourself. Okay, I'm going to use this as our guide for today's session. I mentioned that this is a tool that you can use, and to be honest, I give this to all of my students, whether you are at your graduate doctoral level or whether you're a freshman. We do have modifications if you're a freshman as an undergrad, but again, I think this is something that can be really helpful and really beneficial. So the way that you're going to work this and the way that you're going to work through this is you're going to place your research question or your research topic just in that box. So if you have a question of how do school counselors impact the mental health of students of color, right? So if that's your research question, then you would go ahead and fill that in under very top where it says research question / topic. Even if you don't have a completely fleshed out thesis, or if you're still kind of just throwing around ideas, that is just a place where you can just make your notes and kind of go through your process. So if your topic is just simply, I don't know, I had a student last semester doing it on mosquitoes and West Nile virus. So if your topic is just mosquitoes, you can go ahead and enter that, but you want to think about what about it. That's the main component. That's the main question. What about my topic? What about the question? Once you've worked through that, there is where you begin chunking those keywords and those concepts. So if I'm taking my question of mental health in communities of color, then maybe I would go ahead and do mental health, students of color, school counselors, and so on and so forth, right? Like the impact and even the lasting impression, right? After I have identified my key concepts, after I have kind of worked through my process, I can begin trying to think of and identifying keywords and related synonyms. This portion, your keywords and related synonyms, is super helpful when you are doing your database searching. And that's because some of the language that we use may not necessarily be the language that your databases are using, right? All in all, we know that technology is super helpful and super useful as you guys are working and has given us a lot of giant leaps forward. But there are certain aspects of working with computers that just don't necessarily work intuitively. And maybe your synonyms are one of those things, right? So if I'm trying to think of another word for mental health, maybe I would just right click it and click on synonyms and see what's out there. I can always Google synonyms of mental health. And when I begin my database searching, I can try various combinations just to see what I can find and what I can get. Does that make sense? Kind of? Again, if you have questions and you're online, you can type them in the chat. But for you guys in here, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Do any of you guys that are here in person have like a research question or like an idea that you're kind of playing around with? Anyone? No? Yeah? Okay. You want to share?
The failure of leadership.
Okay. So failure of leadership regarding contaminated water at Fort Lejeune. Okay, perfect. So if that's your question or if that's your topic, right? We obviously know that we can identify your keywords from there. We have contaminated water. You have the specific fort or military base that you're talking about, right? Maybe what type of contamination are we talking? Are we talking lead pipes? Are we talking, I don't know, are we talking unpurified, unfiltered water, right? So as you're working through this and as you're identifying those key concepts, try to begin brainstorming, okay? And so as you brainstorm, just fall down that rabbit hole, see what else is there, see what else you can find to really get you where you need to be for your database searching. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Any questions on the chat so far?
Nothing
No?
on the chat yet.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and ask us, Jesse, if you can head us on back to the quizzes lesson really fast. Okay, so before we move on to the next one, I wanted to tell you guys and kind of introduce something called Boolean operators. I always struggle to say this word. I don't know, my tongue feels like it's too big whenever I say it, Boolean operators. But this is something that when I was a graduate student, I wish I would have known about because I think it makes your life a whole lot easier. when I was working on my master's, I really didn't understand how I can use it and how I could play around with it. But as I became a library specialist and as an information scientist and working on that degree, that's when I really learned it. But I had to go to school for it just to learn it. So I want to introduce you guys to that just a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about and see how it can function with your database searching and with your research. So if you wouldn't mind hitting on next for us, please. So this is what we call Boolean operators. And the main components are and, not, and or. Okay. So depending on how you want to either expand or narrow down your searching, you're going to choose one of these three terms. Okay. And is going to be very specific. So if I am doing a search for puppies and kittens, I only want the research that has the mention of both. If it doesn't give me puppies, I don't want it. If it's only going to give me puppies and nothing on kittens, I don't want it. Okay, so it's only going to give me kind of that highlighted portion that I want that mentions both. If I use or, I am really expanding this out even more than I can imagine. So I don't mind either or. That's kind of how I think about this. Or is a great place for you to have related terms or your synonyms, right? So I mentioned kind of thinking of other keyword terms. If you are doing research on, I don't know, let's say Mexican-American women in doctoral programs, right? So maybe instead of just searching Mexican-American, you might try Mexican-American or Latina or Latine or Latinx, just to kind of broaden up those terms a little bit more. So again, either or. And then if we're using not we have to be very careful with because it's going to limit it very much. My example that I always give beyond the puppies, not kittens, or kittens, not puppies, is if you're doing research on diabetes, right? If you're doing research on diabetes and you want information on diabetes type 1, not type 2. Okay, so I only want one, and that is kittens, that is diabetes type 1, nothing on type 2, nothing on puppies. Okay, does that make sense a little bit? Yeah. So as you're navigating your databases, as you're navigating your searches, try to think about what key components or what main concepts of your research question are going to work well with these Boolean operators. Right? What are you searching for that you want both in? Or what do you not mind that's either or? And then finally, what do you not want? Right? Now we have to be, again, very specific that we don't want this at all. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. Something to kind of keep you on your toes a little bit. Does that make sense? Do we have any questions on that? No? Okay. So I'm now, Jesse, I'm going to ask you if you can head on over to the library homepage, actually. And if you don't know how to get there, either if you're online or in person, just open a new tab and Google UTEP Library.
A new tab when Zoom is a little bit of a challenge.
Try moving the bar. Yeah. And so just Google myutep.edu. You can Google UTEP Library. It really is you guys see fit. If you're going to do myutep.edu, we should have a direct link to it right under campus resources. Right, maybe like 5th from the bottom. Okay, so me personally, because I'm a librarian, this is the second thing I pull up in the morning every day when I get to work. The first thing being my email. So for me, I know this kind of better than most people, and there's a couple of things that I want to highlight for you guys so that you know how to get that assistance and how to get that help. The first of which is this little chat icon on your left-hand side or right-hand side, kind of depending, right-hand side. So Jesse, if you could press this for me real quick. There is a librarian that is dedicated to helping your chat and to answering your chat questions as they come in. We are online, so if you want to go ahead and click chat now for me, just so we can see what it looks like. We're online Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's a little bit different because we have our weekend hours. But if you have any questions at all, maybe you don't know where to begin your search. Maybe you are trying to figure out how late you can study in the library. It doesn't really matter what your question is. This is a great way for you to get that help and get that assistance. Okay, something that I want to point out here is just a reminder that the library is 100% student funded. So what does that mean? That means that we don't get any of our funding from any entity on campus other than your tuition dollars. Okay, so if you are taking, I'm just going to say this is for undergrad because I'm not entirely sure how much it is for graduate students, but if you're taking 4 undergraduate classes, you're going to pay approximately $130 worth of tuition and fees that goes directly to the library. Okay, so that's going to pay for the databases that we're going to go over. That's going to pay for the MinerQuest. It's going to pay for chat. That's going to pay for my salary. Okay, it's just a reminder that you guys are the reason why we're here. Think of this as like a gym membership. If you are not using it, it's just a waste of your money, right? It's already built into your tuition and fees. So why not get that assistance? Why not get that help, right? And I do know that it's based on per credit hours, and I think it's like 12 something for graduate students. So again, you guys are already paying a little bit more. So you might as well get that help. You might as well get that research assistance. Okay, thank you, Jesse. And you can go ahead and minimize that. You can also click on this Ask Us tab right here, maybe the 5th one. So Ask Us tab. And this one is going to be, if you don't mind, a delayed response. Okay, this can take anywhere from an hour to 24 hours, kind of depending on when we get your question. If you are doing work in the middle of the night, I was a grad student too once, I would stay up till like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. If I needed help and I sent in a question at 2 a.m., the person getting to the library at 8 a.m. would be the one to respond to me. If you send it at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, first of all, why are you sending it to 2 a.m. on a Saturday? Second of all, if you do that, then we're not going to be able to answer it until maybe like noon on Sunday. So it really kind of depends on where we get your question. But again, a great way to get that assistance and get that help. Either way, if we can't help you, we are definitely going to send you in the right direction to maybe identifying which subject specialist, which librarian can help you with this. So if I get it, and maybe your question is on patents in chemistry, right? I don't know chemistry that well. I'm not a chemist, but I can direct you to which one of our librarians is that expert in patents when it comes to chemistry. Okay. So that's just kind of how you can get a hold of us really quickly. Let's go ahead and scroll up for me, please, Jesse. Now I'm going to go ahead and get us into kind of the fun part, the reason why we're all here. I want us to click on books, articles, and more. And it's going to be right under the library, the first tab.
Oh.
Okay, so I mentioned that we're going to be running searches in MinerQuest. MinerQuest is the library Google, okay? It's going to search everything that we have in our catalog, everything that we hold up to a certain point, okay? And I say that because when you are doing research, you want to make sure that you're leaving no stone left unturned. This is going to search about half of our collection. The other half, you'll have to go to a specific database to make sure that you're covering. And that's just simply because of logistics when it comes to companies. MinerQuest is owned by one company. The rest of the information is held by another company. So you want to make sure that you're finding all of that so you do have to go to 2 different places. So today's session, we're just going to focus on MinerQuest. In next week's session, we'll look at the other side. Okay. So I want us to go ahead and run a real quick search. So Jesse, if you can go ahead and click on the search bar. Yeah, perfect. And then Simon, right? I'm going to go ahead and do yours. And Jesse, if you wouldn't mind typing in contaminated water. Okay, and let's go ahead and click search and just roll those dice and see what we find here. So I have about 140,000 search results. I know if I go to Google, I'm going to have way more, right? And it may not necessarily be what I'm needing or what I'm looking for. So I want to make sure that I am getting quality information and that I know how to narrow it down even more. Because bottom line, over 140,000 is far too much. Simon, you don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of time. Nobody has that kind of time, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting you good information that you need. So I'm going to suggest that we move on over to our refined results, which will be right here on our left-hand side. So, Simon, what type of research are we looking for? Are you looking for books? Are you looking for articles? Do you know?
More articles.
More articles? Perfect. So, Jesse, I'm going to go ahead and have you click on available online underneath availability. Okay, perfect. So now I'm only looking online. I'm not looking at anything that we hold physically here on campus, which is great for maybe our distance ed students. Next up, I want us to go ahead and click on peer reviewed under availability. And peer reviewed just is really going to make sure that we're getting those quality sources that have been vetted and have gone through a rigorous process of making sure that it's worth my while and make sure that it's good information. Next up, and then right here under source type, Jesse, I'm going to go ahead and have you click on articles. For now, for Simon's question, we're just going to look at articles, but I want you guys to notice all of the different types of sources that we have access to here. And again, all of this is a part of your tuition and fees. So if you can use a image, if you can use a government document, check it out, see what's there. Okay, and then final one, Jesse, I'm going to have you click on publication, which will be on the last caret. Publication date right after market research. Perfect, yeah. Simon, are you looking for water contamination from 1590? No, right? Do you have a time frame in mind? 1950 to 2023. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask Jesse if he could put in 1950, but before we apply all of those filters, I want to do like a quick explanation of why I'm asking. This is important because when you are doing your searching, not all of your information will be relevant the older it gets. For example, for those of you in education and counseling, maybe mental health, maybe the medical field, you want to stick to about 5 years for your research. And that's because information is constantly changing and constantly evolving. If we think about COVID-19 as we know it today, that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? So we want to make sure that we are applying those filters and getting exact information and more relevant, up-to-date information. If you're doing historical research, having a little bit older is perfect. The general rule of thumb is about 10 years. We want to stick to about 10 years for our research. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave 1950. I have all my other choices that I've made. And Jesse, go ahead and hit apply filters for me. So here, I wasn't able to narrow it down as much as I would have liked, but that's probably because of the amount of time that I'm searching, right? As we search more and more information, then our search results are going to get far more vast and far more wide, right? I can always add a different keyword to my subject search and just see if I can find anything else specifically. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. I have contaminated water. I have online peer-reviewed articles between 1950 to 2023. Okay, I'm okay with this search. I'm happy. For graduate students, we always try to suggest about 100 search results. That's like the sweet number, simply because you guys are busy, you have lives, you may have full-time jobs, you may have families. Going through 101,000, it's not going to cut it, right? Even if you're doing a systematic review, that is far too many results for what you need. Maybe you just need about 1,000 for a systematic review. Okay, and even then, that's a lot. For now, let's just leave it as this. I'm going to go ahead and click on the second one. So synthesis of nano, zero valent, iron nanoparticles. I don't know if this is kind of in the direction that you're going in, Simon. I'm just going to assume, right, that maybe this works. You like it. Yeah, this is good. I want to show you guys what I like to call pre-reading. Okay, this is going to make sure that you are kind of getting your biggest bang for your buck and understanding that all of this information will be useful for you. So even before I open my article, even before I read my article, there's a couple things that I want to identify off the bat. The first of which is I get to see what journal this is coming from. I know I'm talking about water contamination, and so this is coming from the Journal of Environmental Management. That works for me. I can check that. The second of which, and then Jesse, I'm going to have you scroll down just a little bit more, right there. I get to see all of my subjects. So all of these like hyperlinks in blue, I get to pick and choose which ones I like and which ones maybe can expand my search even more, right? So if I'm kind of stuck on my synonyms, if I'm stuck on my keywords and maybe I can't think of related concepts, I can always come to contaminated water remediation, because maybe I hadn't thought about that one before. I can always click on conservation protection regarding contaminated water, right? I can always follow down those rabbit holes just to see what's there, just to see what else maybe I can find and add to my research. Now, Jesse, scroll down for me a little bit more. And the next thing is this description. I always tell my students, read your descriptions. You never want to begin reading an article without reading your description. Simply, you guys are busy, right? You don't have time to go through 45 pages of an article just to find that it wasn't what you needed, right? If I read my description and I'm liking what it says, if I like that it mentions contaminated water and it's talking about lead, then you know what? I know this is going to be it, and I know that I can go ahead and pick this and read this. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Do we have any questions? Questions yet? Okay, fair enough. Okay, go ahead and scroll up for me, please, Jesse. Now, something that I want you guys to also know how to do and how to find, you can always get this citation. So if you see this little quotation mark right up there where it says underneath send to, you can click on that and it's going to automatically generate a citation for you based on the style of your choosing. If you're using APA, then it's automatically going to give that for you. Just a note, this may not be correct. And that's just because it's a really quick citation generator. You always want to go in and double check to make sure it looks good, to make sure that it's correct. Because there may be something that's italicized when it shouldn't be. Maybe you're going to see something in all caps when you it shouldn't be like that. So just kind of be aware that that's where that is. Okay, the next button that I want to show us is this RefWorks icon. Jesse, do you have a RefWorks account?
I don't think I do.
No? Okay, so can I use you as our,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, so Jesse's going to be our, for lack of a better word, guinea pig, but it's going to be a very helpful tool for him. So if you've never used RefWorks, RefWorks is a great place for you to manage all of your citations. This is what we call a citation management software. Okay, now, it is a huge benefit to all students, specifically to graduate students, because here you can save all of your citations for all of your projects. I always tell my students, save and create a folder for every class that you're in. And then as you go into your thesis work, as you go into your dissertation phase, you can always come back to see what sources really worked for you. If you have never set up an account, you want to click on no account, sign up here. You want to make sure that you're using your UTEP email. Do not use a personal email, use your UTEP email. Again, I mentioned all of the tuition and fees and things that this pays for. This is one of those things. Think of this as like the sauna of a gym, right? It's going to be very helpful. You may not use it all the time, but when you do use it, it's going to be worthwhile. Okay, so if you have one, you can always click check. If you don't have one, then you can always go ahead and create your own account. Just you don't have to create an account unless you want to, but I just wanted to kind of show them what you can do and what you can find here. Okay, you always want to make sure that you are using your UTEP email and don't ever click use my institution or use my login, simply because this one will not work for you. UTEP is not listed there for whatever reason. Just click no account, sign up here. Okay. Another great thing about RefWorks is that it allows you to really like format everything as you need, as you see fit. So if you are collecting your resources, if you're collecting your citations, you can add RefWorks into your toolbar, and that way you can save everything. You can always go and find it in the UTEP library, and you can save it from there. Okay, it's going to be very helpful, very beneficial, and it's going to also create a reference page, a works cited page, and a bibliography for you. So again, it's automatically generating these things, and as you guys are working on your semester projects, as you're finishing things, as you're turning in things, you can just save your citations there and then automatically have it created for you. Again, you want to make sure that you are double checking everything, that it looks good, all your citations are correct, but for the most part, half the battle is done for you. Okay, did anyone in here have a RefWorks account set up already? You have one? Have you used it before?
Not where, could, yeah.
But you have one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it has it been easy for you? Yeah. Yeah, and so you just click, and kind of bottom line, it's already practically done for you. I see you have a question in the chat. I do.
Sarah has it.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So if you have an account, I'm glad. If you don't, then definitely set it up. Any questions right here on RefWorks so far? No? Okay, so now that we've kind of gone through our basic searching and setting up a RefWorks account, I want to give you guys maybe like 5 minutes or so. If you haven't set up an account, go ahead and log in, create an account for yourself right now. But I also want you to try practicing and using your keywords to identify what articles might be best for you. Think of this as kind of like library related or librarian related time. If you get stuck and you're online, pop it in the chat and I'll go ahead and try to troubleshoot from here for you. And if you're in person, I can definitely kind of troubleshoot with you as well. But just try different keywords, try different terms. If you want to try Simons with water contamination at military bases, go for it. Roll the dice, see what's there. Or you can try your own. It's really up to you guys. I'm again going to give you 5 minutes. And let me get my timer going. Obviously, you guys can get started. Okay, so 5 minutes on the clock. And if you have questions, let me know. Hi, Kevin. I see your question regarding downsides. I think maybe the biggest downside is kind of depending on what department you're coming from. I know a lot of the health sciences, like for example, nursing, social work, they tend to like EndNote a little bit more. If you're in engineering, maybe you like Mendeley. I think the downside here might be just like sharing. If you need to share your citations with a colleague, it might get a little clunky. But otherwise, if you are just creating one for yourself, if you're not planning on sharing like your citations, if you're not collaborating with anyone, then I don't necessarily see a downside regarding that. One of the downsides I do see, I think is trying to access RefWorks. You can Google RefWorks and ProQuest and it should pop up. But if you're not familiar with it, you know, having to go through like a basic MinerQuest search just to get to RefWorks, that can get a little clunky too. We don't have a direct link, and I think that might be one of the biggest problems. But other than that, I always suggest my students to use RefWorks. I think it's a great tool. I wouldn't call it problematic, more it's just clunky. But other than that, I really like it. I use it for my own work. I use it for my students when I kind of do demonstrations. But I think it's really helpful. And I hope that answered your question. If you have any more, go ahead and let me know, please. Something that I wanted to show you guys too, and I'm glad Simon brought it up because I think this can be very helpful. Jesse, can you just search anything for me? Whether it's contaminated water, maybe something for your own research, whatever. Okay, student development theory, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and have you click on this first article, socialized into the field. So if you guys are kind of struggling maybe to find your sources, find your citation, go ahead and scroll down for me, please. Like I mentioned, you have your subjects here listed in blue. So if student development theory isn't working for me, maybe I can try organizational culture, organizational behavior, and so on. Go ahead and scroll down a little bit more for me, please. A little bit more right there. Perfect. So right here under citations, you'll see something that says citations, find sources, citing this, and cited in this. This is also a great tool for you guys in case you get stuck and don't have any other resources, or maybe you found just 3, right? And you're like, you know what, one of them is really good, but I'm kind of stuck. I don't know what else to do. I can always click cited in this, and I get to see what other research is citing this article. So for this one, you have now citing this. These are 2 different articles that have cited that one that I initially found. Okay, so again, just kind of think of research as like diving into a rabbit hole. You always want to keep going and keep finding. Go ahead and go back for me, Jessie. Perfect. Yeah, the little, yeah, right there. And then go ahead and click on it again. And then all the way down at the bottom, and then click cited in this. And here it's going to give you all of the citations that are listed in this one article. Okay, and so it's really going to be very helpful and very useful for you if you're like, you know what, I found this really good article, I found this really good research, but I don't know where to go from there. Think of this as like citation mining. You just get to see what other work, especially if it's similar to yours, you can use and find and add to your own research. Okay, most of the time you will find this when you're doing your searches, whether it's in MinerQuest or some of the other databases, but it's a very helpful tool for you as you kind of go and just look for more and more citations. Once you find one, again, you can keep going down this process. You can keep going what's cited in this, who is citing this one, and so on. And so again, you're just keep going and keep looking until you eventually come out the other end and you find something, and then you're done with the program, which is amazing. And now you're either a doctor or you have mastered the subject. So that's great. I think we're almost out of time, folks. We just have a little bit over 10 minutes remaining. Are there any questions that we might have? Oh yeah, for sure. So Kevin, when you're using citing this, that is going to give you articles, books, research that are using that one article. Okay, so that initial one that Jesse had found for us, when he clicked citing this, it gave us 2 results that are using that one work in their own work. Versus citing in this, that is going to be the citations that are listed in that one article. I hope that makes sense. Note this, when searching, should we include articles outside of the US, such as Australia? That's going to be really a personal choice. For my suggestion, whenever you're doing a literature review, you can select things that are outside of the United States. Simply because you want to see what's out there, you want to see what the rest of the world is producing, and you don't want to leave a stone unturned, right? Remember, like I mentioned, if you are doing specific research in the United States, then maybe you don't want to include anything else. But if you're just trying to like have your lit review done, if you're trying to get your information, maybe you're doing a historiography type thing, then you would definitely want to include other articles outside of the US. I hope that makes sense. Anything else, folks? And of course, if you're on chat, I'll give you a minute in case you need to kind of get something out. But if you're here in person, do you guys have any questions for us? No? Okay. Well, if you can think of anything else, you guys are always welcome to email me, get a hold of me. I did want to show you how you can find all of the librarians, including myself. Jesse, could you head to the library homepage really fast? So if you're at the library homepage and maybe you need to schedule an appointment with your librarian or with me, you can always click on people at the very top and then subject specialist. And then here's a list of all of our librarians. Here you get to see all the different departments, everyone that's in charge of it. I'm all the way down at the bottom. I'm right there. So if you want to send me an email, you can go ahead and send me an email. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, you can go ahead and do that there too. But definitely look to see who your librarian is if you want to reach out to them, or if you want to contact me directly and then I can kind of delegate from there, we can definitely do that. Okay, but that's pretty much all that I have for you guys. You are welcome to stay behind and ask me any questions that you might have. You guys on chat too, if you have something, you can always turn on your mic and just kind of ask and we can go from there. Okay, but thank you guys for attending. I will have another session where we discuss kind of subject specific databases. So maybe if MinerQuest isn't your jam and it's not giving you what you need, the subject specific ones are really going to help you out. Okay. Thank you guys.